All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just finished the second eye, a little more realistic with all the other pieces, and now we're going to move on to trying to make the mouth. The reason why I'm going to the mouth next is because some of the stuff that we did as far as like eyelids kind of translates almost the same way to the mouth. So we're going to do two mouths. The first one's going to be a little simpler than the second one, and as you can see, I've already set out and made a few balls of clay that are pretty much the size of a quarter. More importantly, that all the balls of clay that I made are all really the same size. And as we're working, as always, you want to make sure that any sort of folds, creases, or rough parts of your clay are all sort of smoothed out, and then make sure that you take the time to kind of roll them up nice. If you rush this stuff or you're a little careless with it, that's where the work starts suffering. We're going to take two of them, basically the same size to start with, and again, I pre-made them, so it's going to take you a little longer to do. First one, what we're going to do is we're going to start flattening this one out, just like we did for the eyelids. I'm just going to pinch this clay together, and I'm going to start stretching it out a little bit. This is going to be the base, and this entire thing is really going to get covered up. So I don't really want you or need you to make this thing super thin. But what I do want is I would like it, again, just like the eyelids, to be even thickness all the way through, and to be approximately at least 2/4 or two little balls of clay wide. So this, again, is going to be the base for our mouth, because we're going to be sticking the other parts of the lips on top of it. So again, keep it relatively the same thickness. It's okay if it's a little bit thicker. See how I've stretched it out wide? All right, so it's not like super duper skinny, and it's not like really, really flat. And if you look at the thickness all the way through, I've kept the thickness relatively the same all the way through. So that first piece, that's going to be about 2/4 or at least two balls of clay. Second piece, we're going to do the same thing, slightly different. All right, we are going to kind of pinch this out a little bit, and instead of making it just long, what I want to do is I want to kind of make it a little bit like a half moon thing. This is going to be the start of the chin. All right, so what I want to do is I kind of want to level out and squeeze out the top of this, but I kind of want to keep that part round. Ultimately, let me get a little closer. What I want this to all look like is like a semicircle, or like cut in half, and then just like a semicircle. And what I'm going to do is just pinch this piece out a little bit more. It's almost the same length. Over here, again, I want to keep the thickness of the clay even, all right? And you can see there's a little bit more material on the bottom over here. That's totally fine, because that's going to be the start of my chin. So what I want to do is I want to take that little piece that I just made, all right? I kind of want to lay it down on the piece that I just made before that, and I want it to overlap. You can see that it's sort of overlapping a little bit. And now what I want to do is I want to kind of mush all that together. So we're basically using two balls of clay, the size of a quarter, and then what we're doing is we are kind of putting them together and blending them together. And what you see I'm doing with my finger over here is I want to get rid of any sort of seams where the two clay are joined. And what I want ultimately is this is going to be the chin, and this is going to be where I put the mouth. So I want to kind of set this thing up and pick it up and kind of work on it a little bit. I don't want it to be too flat. I'd like to keep the thickness of it relatively the same throughout. You'll see that the bottom part here is a little thicker where the chin is going to be, and that's fine. And then on this front part, what we want to see is really that it's all smooth. So you're looking at the shape that I made. You know, it's not a geometric shape, but you can see it's much rounder down here. This would be the chin, and it's a little flatter up here. This is where we're going to put the mouth. All right? I'm going to kind of look at my quarter, and what I want to do is I just want to lightly draw in a line with my little toothpick. This is just going to be a reference for me to start on where I'm going to put my actual lips. So we want to make sure we don't have a giant chin over here, but you can always adjust that and change that as we go. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start working on the actual chin and the lower lip first. So I'm going to take one of these little balls of clay that I made that is approximately the size of a quarter. What I want to do with this is I really kind of want to take it, I'm going to pinch it a little bit, and I really want to kind of divide this in half. Okay? I'm going to take my little quarter piece that I made, and I'm going to divide it in half. I want it to be pretty much equal halves. And just like always, now I'm going to make just a slightly smaller little ball. The first part of this ball is going to be the chin. The next part is going to be for the lower lip. So what I'm going to do is, again, roll that up. I've taken one regular sized piece of quarter ball clay, and now I've made it into two smaller pieces. And really, the goal for these smaller pieces is to try to make them the same size. Nice, smooth, no little folds or cracks. I'm going to take one of them, doesn't matter which one, as long as they're both smooth. And just like the eyeball, I'm going to kind of pat it down and press it down onto my surface. I want to kind of start making one side of it a little flat. I want to leave the other side round. So I'm going to basically make like a small eye right now. And this is just going to be the bump for the chin. I'm going to flatten it out just a little bit. Let's see, I'm starting to get a little ovalish over here, but the important part, I got that flat side, and then I have that round side, that hamburger bun. And that's going to be the start of my chin. And I want to kind of place it right on the bottom over here. And you can see, you know, on mine, where I put the placement. I have my little line over there where I think I want to put the mouth. And now I've added that little eyeball-sized or shaped piece of clay. And what I'm going to do right now is I want to start pressing that one into that base that I've created, and I want to blend it in. And the same thing that we did earlier to try to blend those two pieces of clay together, the important part is to kind of rub your fingers there so that you no longer see the seam. You can see how it's starting to make it look like it's just one piece of clay. This is an important part. You're going to do a little bit of pressing in, and you're going to be dragging your finger over it. Now, invariably, it's going to spread that little mountain, that little ball of clay that we made for the chin. It's going to spread it out a little bit. That's totally fine. But we want to make sure that the base that we created doesn't get any thinner. So you can see this one side. I've almost finished that one side. This is what the start looks like. This is what it should look like when we're done. So I'm going to continue to blend this in with my finger. And again, the face is going to need to be symmetrical. So we don't want that chin to get too lopsided on any one side. You can see me sort of smoothing that out with my finger, making it into one. All right, and then I have that little bit of a crease here. I want to get rid of that. It's okay. Don't worry so much about that line if it gets a little messed up. A lot of that's going to get covered anyway. So right now, I should have my little bottom of my face with a little bump on it, and you can see the little bump that I've created on it. All right, so that's going to be my chin. Now what I want to do is, since this is soft, pliable clay, I want to, you know, do a little plastic surgery, literally, since this is like a plastic compound. Is we really want to just kind of pinch this thing and shape this chin so it looks even on both sides. All right, and I'll just touch up my little line for the mouth. And right now, I kind of press that in. Looks pretty symmetrical right here. Looks like a nice little chin. Pick that up. You can see what it looks like from the front. This is what it looks like from the side. We have that bubble coming out for the chin. All right. Now the next piece we're going to do is we're going to take that other little tiny piece of clay. Remember, we broke that in half. Half of it's becoming the chin. We're going to use the other half for the lower lip. Now, how are we going to make the lower lip? All right, well, first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it in my hands a little bit, and I'm going to try to change it from being a meatball to a little bit more like a sausage. All right, so once you get it to that start of that sausage shape, we want to start rolling it out. We can roll it out right on the paper, and you just roll it. You know, it's going to be small at first, Make sure you're working on a clean surface, not like Mr. B. We're going to roll it out with our fingers, and we're going to slowly try to make it a little bit longer and a little bit wider, okay? And you can see what I'm doing right now. You can see that sort of sausage is becoming into like a hot dog shape. But the most important thing is to try to keep that shape even, okay? Try not to let that shape get, you know, too thin in one part or too thick in the other. As you can see, mine is nice and even, and you can see nice and circular this way. And when we put it over here, you can take a look and you can see, you know what, it's just a bit longer. It's not longer than the entire face that I made, but it's a little bit shorter on both sides. This is what we're going to use for our lower lip. All right, so we want to make sure, again, we don't make it too long, we don't make it too thin. You can see the thickness of this. Again, this was 1/2 of a little bit of the little quarter round of clay. I've rolled it out, and I have not rolled it out so that it is too much longer than this thing. It's actually a little bit shorter. So remember, the evenness of this thing, the same thickness, you see no folds, you see no little sort of cracks or crevices. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pinch a little bit of that bottom, okay? I'm going to pinch it a little bit right here. You can see what I'm doing with my fingers, and I do that so that when you look at it from this side, it's almost like a little teardrop. See how it's nice and round, and now it gets a little bit flatter over here? We got that little teardrop shape. This top part is going to be our lower lip. This bottom part, this pinched part, is going to be smoothed out into our little face. So I'm going to start by kind of placing it down over there like that. And what you can see is I've got my little teardrop side is on the lower part. This rounded part is my upper part. Now, I really don't want to smush this. I don't want to ruin this side. I want to keep it nice and round and smooth and even. But what I am going to smush is the bottom. And, you know, we'll get it a little tighter over here. What I want to do is I kind of want to press the bottom of that in a little bit. And I'm going to press the bottom of it in on the opposite side. And what you can see, I've already blended that into my mouth over there. I'm going to take a look again. I'm keeping this side completely untouched. And now what I want to do is I really want to connect the bottom side of this. And it's important that you really kind of get there with just your fingertip and you don't ruin the top part of this. And what you want to do, and it may take more than just a minute or so, is you want to continue to kind of smooth those two pieces into the chin. And make sure that you're not ruining the chin either, but we're going to kind of smooth those two pieces in to one another, just the bottom part of it. And we want to try to make it so we don't see a little seam over there. And again, this is not going to be like, okay, I go over one time and it's done. You're going to have to get in there and just kind of run your finger across it more than a few times. Get rid of any imperfections. I want you to pick this up right now. We're going to take a look at what I have so far. And let's look at it from the side. You can see here's the chin. And just like under the lower lip, it sort of divots in. And then here is that lower lip. All right? But we have it going all the way across. Looks a little bit like a robot. We don't want to mess with the middle. And now what I want to do is those two sides, I want to start pressing those in. Just the sides. I'm just going to kind of smoothen those in a little bit. And you can see what it looks like from above. You can see how the sides of that lip are getting pressed into the clay. And again, I want to blend those out as well. All right, so what we have right now should start to look like your chin and your lower lip. Okay, so if we look at it, you look at it from the side, we see the bump of our chin, we see the bump of our lip, we see that top part over here. This is still from the original rollout that I did. Notice that I haven't touched that or messed with that at all. Now the two sides over here, I've sort of smoothed them out. Take a look at what it looks like from above. This is still untouched. These have been blended in together. This is still a nice crease. The bottom side has been blended together so you don't see any of that. And you see like the lip looks a little full. If you want to try to make a smile a little bit, And just kind of shape this up a little bit. But again, I don't want to mess with the middle. I want to keep the middle nice and round and popped out. So let's just take a look at this again. Chin, that little divot underneath the lip, and then here's our lower lip. So congratulations, we are through the first part of this. Now all we have to do is add the top part, all right, the upper lip. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one of those nice big pieces of clay, the little ball of clay that I made that's the size of our quarter, and then I'm going to start pinching again. And I'm going to pinch. And the key here is do not make this too thin. We do not want to make this as thin as the eyebrow. I'm going to take a look at that and see what I got over there. All right. I'm going to continue to mess with this and just pinch that a little bit more. Okay. Continue to stretch it out a little bit. And we're going to continue just a little bit more, but you can see how thick I'm keeping it. You don't want to make this upper lip too thin. All right. And what you want to see is when you put it down, once again, we don't want this thing to be way shorter than the rest of the mouth. We don't want it to be longer than the rest of the mouth. You see how big I've made it? It kind of just fits on top over there. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to kind of pinch out the ends of these a little bit. So I told you about the thickness. You can see how thick that I've made mine over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start pinching the ends of these a little bit more. I'm making the end of that just a little bit thinner. So if you look at it from the side, see it's fat in the middle, thin on the edges, and then this way it is pretty much just one long piece. So that's going to make it just a little bit longer, okay? And this is about the size we're working with. If you have stretched this out wider than your mouth, than this whole piece, it's too thin. All right, if it's way shorter, you got to flatten it out just a little bit more. We're going to start fitting that on right over there. A couple things we have to do before this becomes like the official mouth. We want to kind of figure out where the middle is. Let me see, I could do this by getting my fingers in here. What I'll do is when I get a little pinch. And what you see that I've started to do, I've created a little bump in here. And that little bump, we want to make sure that bump is in the center. And that bump is going to be the middle of your lips. And what I want to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to start pressing my fingers into it just a little bit to create a little bump. You can see the little bump that I'm creating. I'm trying to keep it in the middle the best I can. But this is going to be the start of your lips. Taking my fingers here and I'm just kind of pressing them up into it a little bit to kind of create that little indent. And this is going to be starting the shape of your upper lip. You can sort of place it right there. You can almost see that upper lip starting to form. So what I'm going to do is, again, some people get collagen or butt fat or all the rest of it in there to make their lips look fuller. All you have to do is kind of pinch them a little bit. And again, we're not going to go crazy. We're not making it thinner. Actually, the way I'm pressing this is actually making this whole surface look a little bit thicker. You see what I'm getting at right now? Just kind of pinching up a little bit. It's a little more involved in the eye, but if you're doing exactly what I'm doing, you'll see that it starts to work. So when I place that right there, you can see I already have like that upper lip indent, and then I have that lower lip sort of bump out. It already sort of looks like a mouth. And we have a couple little things that I want you to do first before we sort of place this thing down. Number one, you have a little divider, a little like split here in the middle of the mouth. See how you have that little center of the lip? This right here, what I want to do is I'm going to take my Q-tip, not my Q-tip, I'm sorry, the toothpick. I just want to kind of press and roll it a little bit into that. I'm going to try to do that right in the center over there. All right, and what you see is I've made like a little ridge in there. I'm going to get my fingertip in that little ridge and just want to kind of smooth it out so it doesn't look like I just jabbed a toothpick into it. You see I've made a little sort of ridge in there, a little sort of bump. I made that little ridge, that little bump, to kind of be right in line with that center part of the thing. And that's that split in your lip. I've got the upper lip, got that little split in the lip, and this is going to be like, you know, more of your upper lip right over here. And again, kind of want to place that. You can make it completely closed. You can make it a little open. That's all fine. But what I don't want to do is, once I have this upper lip, I don't want to sort of press and smush any of this other stuff into it. I do want to see a little overlap over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ever so slightly try to blend these sides into one another. Just a little bit. And again, I like to have the upper lip and this edge over here just kind of overlap just a little bit. And I don't want to smoothen it out too much. And you can see, just with a little bit of smoothing on the sides, a little bit of pinching on the sides, we have our first mouth, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I'll pick it up and show you from a bunch of different angles. You see, I only blended a little bit into the sides over here. I'm going to push that together. I'll keep it looking like one piece. You can see that little divot that I created with my toothpick. You can see the little pinch that I made in there with my fingertips. And again, I got the two pieces on there. You look at it from the side, you can see the bump out for the chin, the little roll out for the lip, other little piece over there. From the back, you can still see the seams and where it's been connected. But again, this stuff pretty much kind of sticks to itself anyway. So you can't really get back in there and fix this too much. So you want to make sure that it looks pretty good before you add it. And that's our first mouth. Took me about 20 minutes. I'm going to give you the rest of today and all of tomorrow to do this. I probably will see where we're at on Monday. I might give you a little bit more time to do that, because I want to give you the chance, if it's not coming out well, to just crumble it all up and start again. Any little imperfections and stuff we want to kind of smooth out. Even though these are practices, we want them to look good. All right, we want them to kind of, you know, we want to get a real practice in there, so when we're able to make the big face, we have, you know, the ability to really improve upon our skill and our craft. All right, and with that, I'll post this video, and happy sculpting out there, ladies and gentlemen.